shot a bust head. Blood. Stole a man's plow. Somebody fetch the sheriff.
The film opens in a small town called Rose Creek in Mexico in 1879, where this small town has a lot of gold beneath it and the land is very fertile for growing any kind of agriculture. But for some time, the town of Rose Creek has always been terrorized by a land bandit who has hundreds of subordinates. The townspeople are starting to become unbearable because the water, agricultural products, and gold mines produced by the residents are all taken by the bandit named Bogue. The residents then gathered at the church to discuss the issue, and during the meeting, some residents were so frightened that they suggested leaving the town, but others refused because the land belonged to them, including Matthew and his wife Emma. In the midst of endless negotiations, Bogue suddenly arrived with his men, and there Bogue revealed that Rose Creek's land had recently deteriorated, resulting in small profits. Bogue then offered to buy the residents' land for $20, but of course, because the price was so low, the residents refused and many protested. At that moment, Bogue's men began firing warning shots and drove them out of the church. Not only that, Bogue also set fire to the church, causing the residents to immediately flee for their lives. Seeing Bogue's brutality, Matthew dared to stop him, who had treated the residents arbitrarily, but unfortunately, Bogue, who was an arrogant person, immediately shot Matthew dead right in front of Emma. Bogue then continued to shoot other residents who tried to resist, resulting in a very heartbreaking scene. Before Bogue left the place, he threatened to come back in 3 weeks and asked them to accept the offer he had made.
We have people anywhere from the church is on fire. Stay back!
Then the story moves to the outskirts of the capital, where we are introduced to the main character of the film, a veteran United States Marshal from Kansas named Sam. He rides his horse with such pride that he attracts the attention of the townspeople. Sam then enters a bar where there is a cowboy and skilled gambler named Faraday. In the bar, Sam asks the bartender about the whereabouts of a fugitive named Dan. Meanwhile, the bar patrons who know about Sam are frightened and begin to point their guns at him. However, Sam immediately shows his skills by shooting bottles and chairs, causing the arrogant patrons to remain silent. After that, Sam shot the bartender dead because it turned out that the bartender was Dan. Sam then told the people to call the sheriff, so everyone hurriedly left except Faraday. Not long after, the local sheriff started arriving, and Sam calmly explained that he was assigned by the court to hunt down Dan, who was a top fugitive, because Dan had killed a family and Dan was also a rapist. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Faraday, who was about to leave, was suddenly approached by 2 brothers who felt cheated by Faraday while gambling 2 weeks ago. The 2 men then led Faraday to an empty field and intended to kill him.
Hi, Faraday. You're gonna kill me.
Even though his condition was very desperate, Faraday still had time to take out his cards and deliberately played a magic trick to distract them, and once they were distracted, Faraday immediately shot dead one of the men, then shot the other man in the ear. Faraday then let the man live as long as he did not disturb his life anymore. On the other hand, when Sam was about to leave, he was stopped by Emma and Teddy, who were looking for weapons. The 2 then told him about the situation in Rose Creek, which was being terrorized by evil bandits. And they also said that the bandits had killed innocent people. So they both intended to hire or employ Sam to hunt down the bandits and were ready to hand over all the wealth of the Rose Creek residents to pay Sam in gold. Initially, Sam refused, but after Emma revealed that the bandit was named Bogue, Sam suddenly agreed to help them. Meanwhile, Faraday went to the horse farm to redeem his horse that he had exchanged for Irish whiskey last night. But unfortunately, Faraday didn't have enough money, so a small dispute occurred between Faraday and the horse seller. At that time, Sam, Emma, and Teddy arrived, who said they wanted to redeem Faraday's horse. But in return, Faraday had to join them in fighting Bogue. And because the horse was his favorite horse, Faraday agreed to the deal. The 4 of them then began their journey on their respective horses. But before that, they divided up their tasks. Sam sent Faraday and Teddy to an area to recruit a man named, while Emma accompanied Sam to meet a fugitive. The 2 then stopped at a hut in the middle of the forest with a corpse inside, and that's when a man named Vasquez suddenly ambushed Emma and Sam. Previously, Vasquez had occupied the house to hide because he was a big-time criminal in Mexico. Sam then said he knew that Vasquez was with a reward of $500 for anyone who could capture him. But this time Sam didn't want to capture Vasquez and instead offered him to join their group, and in return Sam would not search for or capture Vasquez after their job was done. In the end, Vasquez accepted the offer because for him the offer was very profitable. Meanwhile, Faraday and Teddy arrived at Volcano Spring and immediately witnessed a shootout between two cowboys, one of whom was Billy. However, Billy's opponent thought that Billy would be easy to defeat, so when the duel was about to begin, Billy took off his hat and dropped his gun on the ground, then threw his dagger into his opponent's chest, killing him instantly. Goody, Billy's partner, collected money from the audience, and when he approached, Faraday immediately said that Sam had sent them to meet him. They went to the nearest barber shop while discussing Sam's offer to join him, and without further ado, Goody immediately accepted. In short, Faraday and the others then reunited with Sam, Emma, and Vasquez at a place. There, Sam and Goody turned out to be old friends, where Sam had previously saved Goody's life in the Civil War.
Emma calling.
Yes, Cole. Good night, honey.
They then went to meet a tracker named Jack, but when they arrived there, they instead met two brothers who said that Jack had died after being killed by them both. But at that time, an axe flew through the chest of one of the brothers, and the other was hit in the head with a rifle by the same man. It turned out that the man was Jack, who was still alive. Jack, who liked to act brutally and knew about the surrounding areas, was then invited by Sam to join them. And without many words, Jack immediately agreed to join their group. They then began their journey back to the town of Rose Creek. But before that, they had to spend the night on the rocks because they were tired from wandering all day. In the morning, they heard horse footsteps walking towards them, and it turned out to be from a man who was part of the Comanche tribe named Red Harvest. Harvest separated from the other tribe members because the chief thought that Harvest's path was different from their tribe's group. Sam then began to approach Harvest and chat a little because they understood each other's language. Sam also explained that they were on a long journey to fight evil people. Sam then offered Harvest to join them to fight the evil people. Harvest agreed, but before that, Sam had to eat the heart of Harvest's hunt as a sign of their agreement or friendship. Four hours later, they finally arrived at Rose Creek, and it was seen Sam and Billy who entered the town first to avoid causing trouble. However, the residents of Rose Creek were terrified, assuming Sam was Bogue's envoy. Sam and Billy then met with some of Bogue's men and the town's sheriff, whom Bogue had paid off. There, Sam told one of Bogue's men, McCann, that he wanted to meet with Bogue. He also revealed that he and his friends would take over the town, and that was when Faraday and the others began to reveal themselves. However, McCann, still unaware of Sam's background, arrogantly ordered the shooter, who was already on the roof, to attack Sam. However, the shooter had already been killed by Harvest. Furthermore, Harvest also shot another of Bogue's men with an arrow, leading to an unavoidable gunfight. Amidst the chaos, Goody suddenly began to retreat, appearing frightened. Meanwhile, the others continued their attacks, including Harvest, who continued to fire, and Jack, who threw his axe. Billy then stabbed several of Bogue, his men, while the rest fired their weapons at the enemies.
Clear vision! Clear!
Seeing his men die, McCann chose to, while seeing that Goody tries to shoot him and is supported by Faraday, but Goody suddenly hesitates and ends up letting McCann go, just like that. After that, Sam asked the sheriff, who had been hiding, to come out. Sam then told the sheriff to go to Sacramento and meet with Bogue to tell him that Rose Creek was now under the control of Sam and his friends, and that if Bogue wanted Rose Creek back, he would have to meet with Sam and make a deal.
Yes, sir.
After the sheriff left, Emma called the residents of Rose Creek to come out and introduce them to Sam's group of 7 men who would help them fight Bogue. However, Emma's actions made some of the residents even more panicked. How could they not be? Sam's group only had 7 men, while Bogue had hundreds of men, making victory impossible. But even so, there were still some residents who were ready to help Sam fight Bogue. Sam then began to estimate that they had at least a week until Bogue arrived in Rose Creek. Not only that, Sam would also provide free weapon training to the people of Rose Creek, and this training would begin tomorrow. The next day, Sam and his friends found that some residents began to scatter to leave the town of Rose Creek. And even so, there were still around 50 people who remained and wanted to take part in the free training. They then began training, starting with Billy teaching them how to use a knife, while Faraday and Godey taught them how to shoot properly. However, in the shooting practice, all the residents failed because they missed the target, and this made Godey very upset.
God damn, son! Piss me off. How many times?
In the end, to inspire, Faraday asked Godey the fastest shooter to shoot, and it was seen that all his shots were on target, which of course impressed the residents.
Told ya.
After training them, they began to plan several traps, and because they needed a lot of ammunition and dynamite to make the traps, they began to ambush the mine run by Bogue's men. They then shot all of Bogue's guards who were forcing the workers to mine, and after killing the guards, they began to take all the ammunition and took it to the town of Rose Creek.
Dynamite.
Why my place?
Meanwhile, the sheriff finally arrived in Sacramento and relayed Sam's message. Bogue was furious that all his best men had been killed by just 7 men, and he finally vented his anger by killing the sheriff. Bogue then ordered McCann to gather all his troops and to head to Rose Creek immediately, starting the next day. The next day, Emma, who was practicing shooting, was approached by Faraday, who tried to attract Emma's attention with his skills. But who would have thought that Emma was also an expert shooter, because she often practiced with her father when she was little. After that, Faraday joined the others to start planning a strategy. They also ordered the villagers to make trenches and also bomb traps. Everyone seemed to be working together to fight Bogue. Even the children also helped make a spinning top that would be used as a marker for the bomb's location. While the villagers were preparing everything, Harvest was ordered to be a spy, and afterward he went towards the hills to observe Bogue's journey and arrival. At night, Sam and the others are seen partying and drinking with the townspeople. This naturally brings them closer and gives the townspeople a reason to stay motivated to fight Bogue, but not Godey, who looks scared.
Nothing's following.
After drinking, Sam is approached by the local priest, who thanks him for his and his friend's services, and the priest admits that he and the townspeople are indebted to Sam's group. The next day, as the villagers were ringing the church bell, Harvest suddenly arrived and informed Sam that Bogue and his troops had been spotted and would likely arrive in town the next morning. Realizing that tomorrow would be a dark day, the villagers held a prayer meeting that night, and while they were focused on praying, Godey suddenly slipped out, only to be discovered by Sam. Godey then revealed that he was becoming increasingly depressed because he thought there would definitely be many casualties. This reminded him of the people he had killed before. That's why Godey previously appeared frightened and traumatized during the commotion, as he had been haunted by the lives he had killed. In the end, Godey decided to retreat, and his withdrawal certainly discouraged the others because it meant losing a crucial sniper. Despite this, Jack continued to encourage them and urge them to stick to the original plan.
Like you all ask for more than that.
After that, Sam went to church to pray, and at the same time, Emma suddenly appeared and told Sam that she was ready to replace Godey. Now the day has come when the battle will begin. The children were hidden in a bunker, while Sam's group and the townspeople took up their positions to welcome Bogue and his army of more than 200 men. Among Bogue's ranks was a member of the Comanche tribe who had betrayed his tribe named Denali. Denali then led Bogue's army to attack the town of Rose Creek. As soon as Bogue's troops reached the trap line, Jack immediately detonated his bomb, killing most of Bogue's men, and this is where the epic battle began. The villagers hiding in the tents then began to attack Bogue's troops with makeshift weapons. And not only that, the villagers hiding in the trenches also began shooting their enemies. Meanwhile, Sam and his group began exchanging fire with Bogue's troops, who tried to break into the town of Rose Creek. In the midst of the battle, Faraday was shot in the stomach by McCann. Fortunately, Vasquez happened to see this and immediately helped Faraday, then retaliated by shooting McCann dead. Seeing that many of his men had fallen, Bogue ordered his men to use Gatling guns. Meanwhile, who had been thinking about many things, finally decided to return to the town of Rose Creek and join the fight. He also told his friends that Bogue was going to fire the Gatling gun, and at that moment Bogue began firing his Gatling gun at the town, killing many people. While the Gatling gunner was reloading, the women and children were immediately evacuated to a safer area. Meanwhile, Jack, who was evacuating Teddy, was suddenly shot by Denali. Jack then challenged Denali to a duel, but Denali showered Jack with arrows, killing him in the process. Meanwhile, Emma and Sam are helping to evacuate the children and women out of Rose Creek. Afterward, Emma hid in a bar, but Denali caught her and continued following her to kill her. At that point, Emma was cornered and running out of ammo. Fortunately, Harvest appeared just in time and immediately engaged Denali. In the duel, Harvest had the upper hand and managed to stab Denali to death before Denali was finally kicked to the ground floor. Meanwhile, Godey and Billy take cover on the church tower, while Faraday and Sam begin to panic and lose their way as Bogue continues to fire his Gatling gun. Since the only way out is to defeat the Gatling gunner, Faraday decides to approach the gunner. Billy and Godey back Faraday up, but unfortunately Bogue's men fire their Gatling guns again in succession, killing Billy and Godey. Meanwhile, Faraday was also shot, causing him to fall right near the Gatling gunner. Faraday then staggered and knelt in front of Bogue's group of men. Realizing this was his death, Faraday took out his cigarette and asked Bogue's men to light a match. Then when Bogue's men wanted to shoot him dead, Faraday suddenly fell in front of them, causing Bogue's men to retreat and think that Faraday had truly surrendered. However, without them realizing it, Faraday actually fell down to light the dynamite, which he then threw at Bogue's men. As a result, the dynamite bomb exploded, killing the Gatling gunners and himself. After all his men died, Bogue, who was now alone, entered the city and had to face Sam, and when Bogue prepared to shoot, Sam fired his shot, first hitting Bogue's gun. Not only that, when Bogue was about to take his gun, Sam also shot him several times in the leg. As a result, Bogue walked with and entered the church he had burned. Sam then led Bogue inside and told him to pray, and that's when Sam started to strangle Bogue while reminding him of the incident decades ago. It turns out that Bogue and his men had once come to Sam's hometown in Kansas, where Bogue raped and murdered his mother and younger sister. That's why Sam had a personal grudge against Bogue. At the same time, Bogue quietly tried to grab the gun he had hidden in his ankle to shoot Sam, but luckily Emma arrived just in time and shot Bogue dead first. Despite the extensive damage to Rose Creek and the loss of many lives, the surviving residents expressed their gratitude to the surviving rescuers, Sam, Vasquez, and Harvest. The priest also promised Sam that he would give his comrades a proper burial. The film concludes with Sam, Vasquez, and Harvest riding away from Rose Creek on their horses. They also bury Faraday, Godey, Jack, and Billy. The residents of Rose Creek will never forget those who fought for something that wasn't even theirs. The film ends.